The cold night whispered through the slightly ajar window as I tiptoed closer to our bedroom door. A sliver of light spilled onto the dark hallway floor, casting shadows that danced with my escalating heartbeat. I paused, my hand trembling as it hovered over the doorknob. The muffled sounds from within didn't need any confirmation. The gut-wrenching laughter that wasn't mine was enough. I pushed the door gently, just a crack, and the scene before me shattered the last remnants of trust I held. There she was, my wife of 7 years, Sarah, in a way I never imagined I'd see her, on her knees, her hands tangled in someone else's hair. I recognized him immediately, her just a friend from work. Rage boiled within me as my world turned grotesquely surreal. I stepped back, the darkness of the hallway swallowing me whole. My breaths came out in harsh whispers to myself. Calm down. Think. Without another glance, I strode toward my office, the place where my old life seemed to stand still among the clutter of books and scattered papers. The third drawer was stiff, always was, but tonight, it slid open as if greased by my fury. The cool metal of the gun settled into my palm, a weight I hadn't felt in years. I checked it, loaded, just as it always was since the break-in scare we had last spring. The walk back seemed longer, each step heavy with the weight of what I was about to do. The laughter had turned into low moans by the time I swung the door wide open. Sarah. My voice was ice, sharp enough to slice through the thick air of betrayal. She gasped, scrambling up, her eyes wide, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Her lover turned, panic distorting his features. He started to stand, reaching out to me, probably for mercy. I aimed and fired. The shot echoed, a brutal punctuation to my scream. He collapsed with a howl, clutching himself, rolling side to side. Sarah screamed, a sound of terror that matched the pounding in my chest. What have you done? What I had to, I replied, my voice calm, almost detached. I watched her crawl to him, her sobs filling the room, her earlier deceit replaced with desperation. I turned away, leaving the chaos behind. This was just the beginning, the first step of my revenge. They thought this night was the worst it could get, but I had plans. Plans that had brewed in the dark, fed by every lie they had nurtured. Tonight was only the opening act. As I left the chaos in the bedroom behind, the cool air of the night seemed to sharpen my senses. I couldn't go back, not now. My feet carried me down the driveway before I knew where I was headed. The streetlight flickered as I approached, casting eerie shadows on the pavement. That's when I noticed the silhouette leaning against a car, watching me. Rough night, huh? The voice was deep, calm. I squinted in the dim light, recognizing Tom, my neighbor, an off-duty cop. His arms were folded, his expression unreadable. What did you see? My voice was a mix of defiance and fear. Enough to know you need help, he said, pushing off from the car and walking towards me. You want to get coffee, talk about it? I nodded, more out of necessity than trust. As we sat across from each other in the all-night diner, the fluorescent lights stung my eyes, making the night seem even more surreal. Sarah was cheating on me. I confessed, the words tasting bitter. I lost it. Tom sipped his coffee, his eyes not leaving mine. And the gun? A moment of madness. I didn't plan to shoot to kill. I felt the weight of the confession, heavy in the air between us. You need a plan, Tom stated matter-of-factly. You think he'll keep quiet? You think she won't try to twist this story? I shook my head, lost. What do I do? First, you need a lawyer. I know someone. Then we need to consider your options legally and otherwise. His voice trailed off, suggesting unspoken strategies. Otherwise, I prompted. Tom leaned in, lowering his voice. There are ways to make sure they don't come after you, to protect yourself from whatever they might plan. The idea of plotting further sent a shiver down my spine, but desperation was a potent motivator. I'll do whatever it takes. We'll need proof. Proof of her affair, her deception. Can you get that? His question was a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. Yes, I can get into her emails, her messages. I know her passwords. Good, Tom nodded, a plan forming in his eyes. Get everything you can. Meet me tomorrow. We'll go over everything. As we left the diner, the early morning mist had started to roll in, cloaking the world in gray. I felt the weight of my actions, the irreversible path I had started down. But now, there was no turning back. I was in this deep, and Tom was right, I needed a plan. a plan not just for revenge, but for survival. The next morning, I was a bundle of nerves, each tick of the clock echoing in the silence of my once peaceful home. My fingers hovered over Sarah's laptop, hesitating before diving into her personal world. With each click, I uncovered more lies. Emails, texts, pictures. Proof that this affair wasn't just a fleeting mistake but a calculated betrayal. My phone vibrated next to the laptop, startling me. It was Tom. "Got everything?" his message read. "Yes," I replied. "More than enough. Meet me at the park in 20. It's safer to talk there." The park was deserted, a faint mist hanging over the dewy grass. Tom was already there, seated on a bench, looking every bit the off-duty cop, alert and watchful. As I approached, he patted the bench, an unspoken invitation. "Show me what you've got." Handing him the printed emails and texts felt like transferring a burden. He skimmed through them, his brow furrowing deeper with every page. "This is good, really good. She won't see it coming," he muttered, almost to himself. "What now?" I asked, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. "Now we use this," he tapped the papers, "to make her back off. We can push for a settlement out of court, keep it quiet. She wouldn't want this getting out, trust me. And him?" I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. Tom's gaze was steely. "Leave him to me, I have a few ideas." As we plotted, I noticed a figure in the distance. My heart skipped. Was it someone watching us? Tom followed my gaze, placing a reassuring hand on my arm. "It's probably just a jogger, but we should wrap this up." We stood, and he handed me a small, discreet envelope. "This is the contact for the lawyer I mentioned. Call her today, and keep those documents safe. You'll need every piece of evidence if this gets dirty." As I walked back to my car, the weight of the envelope in my pocket was a constant reminder of the new reality I was living. Each step was a step further from the life I knew with Sarah, and deeper into a web of deception and strategy. The park faded behind me, the early morning joggers oblivious to the life-changing decisions made on a simple park bench. The game had changed, and I was now playing to win, fueled not just by betrayal, but by the need to survive the storm I had summoned. 2 weeks had passed since my world had capsized, and today was the day that would either anchor me back to reality or cast me adrift forever. I sat in a nondescript coffee shop, clutching the envelope that Tom had given me. The bell above the door jingled, signaling her arrival, Sarah, unaware of the storm that awaited her. She spotted me and hesitated, a flicker of guilt crossing her features before she composed herself. "I wasn't sure you want to see me," she said as she sat down, her voice a mix of caution and hope. "I needed to," I replied, sliding the envelope across the table. "There's something you should see." Confusion flickered in her eyes as she opened it, her fingers trembling slightly. As she read the contents, her face drained of color. "What is this?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Proof of your betrayal," I said calmly, "and a proposal." Her eyes darted up to meet mine. "A proposal?" "A settlement. You leave quietly and none of this goes public. You get to start over, somewhere else, and I keep my peace." She sifted through the papers again, a silent tear escaping her control. "And if I don't agree?" "The alternative is less appealing for both of us," I said, letting the threat hang in the air. Sarah nodded slowly, defeated. I'll need to think." The cafe door swung open, interrupting her. Tom walked in, not in his usual off-duty attire but in full uniform. The sight of him seemed to unnerve her further. "There's no need for more time, Sarah," Tom interjected. "This is your best option." Her gaze shifted between us, suspicion creeping into her eyes. "You two planned this together?" Tom and I exchanged a look before he answered. "Not originally, but we both want what's best for her," he nodded at me. "And this is it." As Sarah agreed reluctantly, signing the papers I brought, I couldn't shake a nagging feeling at the back of my mind. It wasn't until Tom and I walked out that he turned to me, his expression somber. "There's something else you should know," he said, stopping in his tracks. "The affair wasn't just physical. They were planning to take everything from you, your house, your savings. I found out through my contacts." I felt the ground shift beneath me, betrayal layered upon betrayal. But there was more. "And?" I pressed, sensing there was yet another twist. Tom looked around before leaning closer. "Sarah wasn't the mastermind. He's done this before. Used her to get to the spouses. I thought you should know, not just to protect your assets, but But what? I urged. But because he's gone missing. Right after you shot him, he disappeared from the hospital. No one's seen him since. The revelation hit me like a cold wave. Missing? The pieces fell into place, a chilling picture of deceit, deeper and darker than I'd ever imagined. As the implications dawned on me, a twisted sense of relief mixed with fear washed over me. Gone. He was gone, and with him perhaps the darkest shadows of this ordeal. I turned to Tom, about to thank him, but he was already walking away, his job done, leaving me standing in the fading light, wrapped in the tenuous peace of a storm past, and a future uncertain but free.